morning, everyone. Great to see all of you in person. Many familiar faces I haven't seen in the last 3 years. And getting into a hybrid event was very hard, but getting back to the physical event is even harder. And everybody who's on the hybrid event, welcome as well. The toughest thing for me was the last 2.5 years, I've been doing my keynotes in my shorts. I had to wear my pant and come here for the keynote. That was the toughest thing this morning. So what I'm going to do the next 20 minutes, just talk about how, as an ecosystem, we have really transformed what we set out to achieve 10 years ago. We believe we have achieved. And what is the next step for us? And talk a little bit about, start the conversation, but over the next 2 days, we can drill a little bit more deeper on that. How many of you like this aggressive lines in the India emblem? Yeah, I don't want to start a controversy in the start of the conference, but this reminded me of the 3 pillars of the tech ecosystem in India. The first pillar is really the IT services. It's been built around project management, capability, and quality. It was celebrated in the 2000s. And the second pillar is the tech entrepreneurs. And the last 10 years, they became more rock stars. And if you have to buy a house in Koramangala 3rd block, you have to be a unicorn founder. Otherwise, you cannot really buy. Or you want to rent a house in HSR layout, you have to be a startup founder. So it became so central core of the ecosystem we live in. However, we believe the third pillar, which all of us are part of, which is the GCoE ecosystem, is one of the key and has become actually the feeder to both the IT services as well as the startup ecosystem in terms of talent diffusion and capability. And we truly, as a group, we have created a massive impact. There are 1,500 companies with over 1.5 million people working across these organizations. We have over 180,000 people working with modern technology capability. We have 100,000 plus domain experts, technology architects, and we have over 200 centers who are working on some really cutting-edge technology, be it AI, machine learning, blockchain, and so on. This industry has changed the narrative about India. When I went to the US first time for my master's degree, India was perceived to be a nation of snake charmers and elephants, and that was portrayed by Hollywood. But as an ecosystem, we have worked very hard to change and creating high-quality jobs, not just here, but also exporting the jobs everywhere in the world. Hey, the lions and the emblem are aggressive, so be it, I'm fine with it. However, more than the impact we have created for the country, it's really the impact we have created for the headquarters of the companies we all work on. One, be it in terms of the product innovation which has come out of India, the technology breakthroughs we have created, or our ability to embrace open innovation to be able to drive innovation, and as well as in business excellence. How do you work together and drive, be it diversity, process excellence, automation? We have been truly the leader and be the transformation agent and almost a lighthouse for the headquarters. And gone are the days where it was a parent-child relationship. Clearly, over the last decade, we have come to an equal footing with any other location anywhere in the world. Over the next few minutes, I'll talk about some of these innovations. The first on product ownership. I remember this conversation I had with one of our German customers. The person had just moved to India to run an India center. This is after a couple of drinks. I asked him, how long does it take, do you think, for India to catch up on automotive innovation with Germany? His answer was, not in the next 100 years. And Mercedes-Benz last year built complete ADAS system, end-to-end, out of India, including driver assistance, level 2, as well as park assist. In 10 years, we changed the perception on what is possible and we're able to build really high-quality innovation from here. The other big perception about India is we don't understand US customers, we don't understand global customers. In the last 5 years, data has really changed it. Because now every company understands the customers using data, and that has really created a almost like an equal playing field for engineers in India. It's very common for companies in e-commerce running the global e-commerce platforms from India. Companies are driving the international business. There are several retail companies in India who are running the innovations for Mexico. Can you think of it? Mexico is so far. And we're sitting in India and driving Mexico, innovations for Mexico, Costa Rica, Chile. That is because of the power of data. The other big area where we are expecting a lot more product innovation is healthcare. During the decade, last 2 years, we have seen pharma companies growing their centers in India. We have health tech companies setting up operations here. You have hospitals, large hospitals. Providence is one of our sponsors here, setting up innovation centers here. You have insurance companies setting up large centers. So in every industry, the entire ecosystem is getting created in India, so it's able to work across these areas. So a lot of interesting innovation. Second is technology breakthrough. In this, I would say that we are still not there yet in really building core new technologies. But what we have done really well is creating breakthrough innovations based on this technology. We are one of the customers running 700,000 digital twins across all the different customer segments to drive efficiency, creating hundreds and millions of cost saving for the customers. There are several examples. One of the examples we talk about is automation. In automation, the product companies building APIs, RPA technology, or low-code, no-code technology, the technology developers have presence here. And all of the companies which use this technology to drive automation, large banks, large healthcare companies, large insurance companies are using the technology here. So both the creator of the technology and the consumer of the technology are in India, just the headquarters of the companies is outside of India. And third is open innovation. I think there is something in our culture, we don't have this not invented here syndrome. If you go into any engineering team anywhere, they don't want to accept innovation outside of their teams. But in India, it looks like we are able to drive that really well. A GE Edison platform is a great example where the team built this platform, and to build a platform, the key is to make it very easy for developers to start using the platform. So use the startup ecosystem, not just in India, but across the world. But the program was headquartered in India. They were able to work with startups across the world, iterate on the product, and make the product very easy to use for both developers and as well as startups. Second example is another retail company. They worked with startups across 4 different continents from their India center, drive 18 different POCs, creating millions of dollars in new revenue as well as cost saving for the company. So truly open innovation, and we can give example after example in academia. There are examples of Indian centers working with MIT professors in creating algorithms to improve the customer portfolio. So in every single area, the COVID time has made sure that we are all equidistant from everybody else. So we don't really have to only work with companies which are close to us. We can work with universities or startups anywhere in the world. And the fourth aspect is business excellence. And one of the key aspects of India is how we are able to frictionlessly transfer best practices between companies. A great example is Intel's WISE program, where they created this program to help women back to work and openly sharing the best practices and allowing other companies to take on what they build and contribute back. And truly a program which just started a couple of years ago is creating massive, massive impact. And one other interesting story I heard from one of our banking customers, because the quality of managers they have is so good, and they want to set up a center in Eastern Europe. They set up a center in Krakow, and 50 of the managers from the India centers were exported. Think of it, 50 managers were exported to kick off the center and then ensure the practices what they follow in India. is being transitioned, and they're able to follow those and excel in that particular location. Another thing I heard is the biryani has become so famous in Krakow. In some time, like we have Hyderabadi biryani, we will have Krakow biryani, right? So our culture, think of it like we know the connection between US, we know the colonial connection we have with UK, but the impact we are creating in Latin America, the impact we are creating in Eastern Europe, that would not have been possible without the strong GCO ecosystem we have here. Truly, we have created a soft power for the country. And this third pillar, I think, is a great present for the country in the 75th year of our independence. Over the next few slides, I will talk about how we got there. I wouldn't bore you with the Zinnov maturity slide. What we did is we interviewed several of our leaders and asked them about what are these interesting facts or skills which they came across over the last several years, and there are some examples I want to just spend a few minutes on. First is how we used to travel during globalization 1.0. Think of spice traders traveling in this rough, high seas and using the boat. How many of you can guess what this is? Yeah, this is how our leaders travel now. And one of the leaders told us that they made more collaboration, discussions, and contract between the companies at the Emirates A380 lounge than the Zinnov Confluence. So that's how popular the A380 lounge is. And the second interesting thing is about, how many of you watched this movie Groundhog Day? Edge of Tomorrow. So the whole variations of this movie, like you get up in the morning, you have to do the same thing. The person goes on this for several days together. That's almost the story of many of the leaders. So one of the leaders said, in the last 6 years, they had 8 different bosses. So for every boss and their team, they got to explain why India. So you just wake them up in the morning and ask them to you will be able to go through the why India story really, really fast, right? So you had this whole change of leaders much faster. The attrition rate in the US leadership team was much faster than the attrition rate in the freshers in India. Third, every leader is become a tour guide. How many of you have taken your leadership into these? So we heard a lot of stories about, hey, this weekend I had to take them to Taj Mahal, I have to show them the fort. And the good thing is Bangalore, we don't have such great places to take people. So everybody is, they know they can do a better job than the tour guides in any of the location, be it Pune and Bangalore, Delhi, and things like that. One of our customers told this interesting story. He said, I'm just bored of doing this. He figured out that the CEO likes massages. So when they land at 4 o'clock in the morning, the presidential suite, it's in Pune, and I tell most of you will guess who the person is. I wouldn't tell more details. Then the presidential suite will have a massage setup. Right? Go and get some massage, comes to the office. You guess what? Get glowing reviews about the India trip when they go back. And you don't have to do this tour guide stuff. So it's very interesting stories on how companies did it. Then this whole managing the local bureaucracy. The 20 years ago, when one of the companies set up the satellite dish to transfer data, 64 kbps line. So 64 kbps line, they're transferring all this data. And the police and secret service is really monitoring hey, why do you need to transmit so much of data back to the headquarters? What country secrets are you sending in? They got to really navigate that. Another example I heard was navigating the ego of the CEO and the local chief minister. They want to open up the office. The chief minister is getting delayed. The CEO is getting, his anger level is going up. The country head is really worried, oh man, what is going to happen to my promotion? So you really learn how to balance ego, right? You learn persistence and persuasion as part of being a country head. I'm pretty sure all of you do this. How many of you do a marriage reference check for your employees? Okay. So this has become a common. You do reference checks for marriage or a new house they want to buy. And also in employee engagement, many of them say they build a lot of interesting skills. One, you know how to set up your fleet of cars to get people back. And also in a city like Bangalore, people from all over India come in with very different food tastes. To be able to abstract that into North Indian food and South Indian food and provide in your cafeteria, that requires better skills than a Michelin star chef, right? So a lot of these skills, something anybody in a headquarters location don't have to learn. And if you're a leader in India, your skills are so diverse, you build so much of empathy around what individuals look for, and that's one of the reasons what we are starting to see is this massive export of leaders from India. So here are some examples of leaders we'd like to talk about. My favorite is Suresh, a great friend of mine. Suresh started as an engineer at the Honeywell Center and 20 years ago, and worked through, became the country head, became the head of all global operations, now is the CTO of Honeywell Global. Right? So if you have an engineer who starts their career at the GCoE to become the global CTO for a company, that is, for me, a role model for every engineer who joins a GCoE today. There are several examples. So we have Vinod and Simadhini. They are a couple. They worked in the several retail industry in India, and now one of them is the CTO of Lowe's, an IVP of Lowe's, and the other one is the CTO of Sam's Club, which is part of Walmart. There are also several leaders who are playing these roles from India. Our view is, if global business services leadership role, by default, will come into India. Sumit and Lalita are great examples, but our view is if a company is going to now build out a GBS, that role has to be based out of India because 80% of the headcount is based here, and they don't have to. So that's one key role. Second is head of global location. That is another role. It's common. Many country heads who are here, they're now running Romania, they're running Mexico, they're running Vietnam, Philippines. They're running other locations sitting out of India. The tougher one is to do the business role, running a product team from here. You have examples like Hari at Walmart, running a large global product team sitting out of India. So very interesting example that our leaders are now truly become our global leaders. And this number is going to increase. We are very bullish of what is possible in the next 10 years. Right now, we have about 5,000 global leaders. We expect that number to go to about 20,000 in the next few years. The women global leaders, that percentage about 18%. Our view is the women leaders in the Indian GCoE ecosystem will increasingly play global roles to get to about 30% of the women leaders in India will have a global role in the next 10 years, next 7 years. Similar in terms of number of domain technology experts or number of product managers. In each of these initiatives, we are going to take a leapfrog in terms of driving these. So a lot of these goals we have set ourselves 10 years ago, and I think 10 years ago, these were moonshots. And as an industry, we have achieved these moonshots. It was hard, it was tough, right? It required all of this travel. Some of them traveled. There was another interesting thing one of our customers said is, lives in Whitefield. He used to travel to the US more times than he used to go to MG Road. That is the level of commitment these leaders had to create the ecosystem what we have created. So it's a good thing for us to just enjoy this moment and enjoy this accomplishment. But we are not done. I think there's a lot more could be done from what we could do here. One, we believe India could be the wormhole for any company, be it in Asia and even in Europe, for the US market. The entire Indian SaaS ecosystem, the startups, are funded on the premise that Indian engineers sitting in India understands the US market better than anybody else outside of the US. So in that scenario, we can truly be the wormhole for any company which is outside of US from here. India can be the North Star for the ESG. Our team has done a phenomenal job to making this event sustainable. There were no best practices. When we started looking at this 3 months ago, there was zero best practice. We looked at World Economic Forum. We looked at every other conference. we had to recreate every best practice, and we are going to make it open source so companies across the world can learn how to run an event in a more sustainable way. So that's just an example. We believe that India can lead in terms of driving ESG initiatives across the world. And more companies are moving into an as-a-service model, and they're creating new functions like customer success teams. This even happening in companies which are predominantly hardware companies. It's happening in banks. These functions can be built from scratch from India. And not but the least, the most important of this, we believe that India could generate 50% of net new product revenue from the innovations which is built from the India Center. So it is just a start of what we believe, and we want to engage with all of you over the next 2 days and looking at what is possible, what is the mass shot as a community we need to sign up for, and how do we use the tools we already have to be able to drive and achieve this over the next few years. Thank you all. Have a great day, great 2 days, and I will look forward to meeting some of you in person over the next 2 days. Thank you.